Today I'm going to change the brakes and the rotors on 2017 Chevy Cruz. Here are the tools that we're going to need for this job. So I've got a couple different breaker bars in case I need those, and a hammer in case the breaker bars aren't enough. In order to get the lug nuts off the wheel, you need a 3/4 inch socket. In order to get the caliper housing bolts off, you need a 13/16 inch. In order to get the bolts off the part of the caliper that holds the brake pads, you need a what is this, 14 millimeter socket. One of the bolts on the caliper housing, I really can't get the socket on, so I've got a 13/16 inch wrench as well. In order to get the Torx screw off of the for the rotor, holds the rotor on, you need a T30 Torx, and I have a vice grip just in case I can't get something off. You need a screwdriver to ply the brake parts off. One thing I don't have here, I'm going to use some clamps also to compress the brake cylinder when I get to that point, so that's not here. And then I've got some wire brushes and a drill to do some cleaning of the parts, some of the old parts, before I use them again. Got silicone lubricant that we're going to use for the pins that for the brakes. Some brake clean, you might need 2 cans of this, at least one. Another thing I don't have here is blue blocker. The blue Loctite that I'm going to use on the screws when I put them back in, and I'll talk about that when I do it. And then for parts, we need brake pads, obviously, and the rotors. So there we go. Before I actually talk about this repair, I just want to say that I am not a mechanic, a professional mechanic. I'm just a guy who likes to putter around with cars, so I might not do things exactly the right way. I might make some mistakes, but hopefully you can learn from what I do. So, okay, so that being said, the wheels are off. I didn't show that, but first of all, when you take the wheels off, if you don't know this, you want to break the lug nuts loose while the wheels are on the ground, because it's going to take a lot of force. And then you can raise the car up and take the wheels off. So I have raised the car up. I've got both sides raised up. I've got them on jack stands, and then when I took the wheels off, I put them under the frame. This is something that Chris Fix does. So if for some reason the car does fall off the jacks, or it's not gonna, the hub is not gonna hit the ground. The wheel will keep it from hitting the ground. And I also have some wood in the back here, just to stabilize the car as well. And I have a bucket, a little container here that I'm going to use to put the brake caliper on, I think, for now. So because you don't want to pinch that hose, and I'll show you what I mean when I get there. If that doesn't really work, I have a bungee cord too that I can suspend it from. But okay, now we'll get to the actual work of taking the caliper off and the brake pads out. The first step in this job is going to be to loosen this piece. This is where the brake pads are. There's the brake pad on each side, and they're held in by this caliper housing. So we need to loosen this piece up. We'll probably take it off, and then we'll take the caliper itself off. So there's anyways 2 bolts that need to be loosened or taken off. So there's one up here, and there's one down here at the bottom. They're both 14 millimeter bolts, so we'll start by loosening those and taking those off. So first we'll take this top bolt, or at least break it loose. Got my 14 millimeter socket and a breaker bar just to start it. There we go. So once you break it loose, if it comes loose, you can usually just get it with your finger. Okay, so if we also need to loosen this bottom one. So now that that's loose, I'll just take a screwdriver and apply a little bit of pressure. This will just come right off. And again, we have to be careful with this piece because you can see this is the brake line that's connected to it, and we don't want to break it. So I'm going to put this, for now, just set it over here. That's what this, again, this container is for. Hopefully that stays. It seems a little flimsy. Actually, I think I am going to make use of this bungee cord because this, I don't want this to fall. And now that's suspended. So the next thing to do is going to be to take this entire caliper housing off. That's the only way we're going to be able to get these rotors off. So that will be next. Alright, in order to take the caliper housing off, there are two bolts. They are 13/16. So there's one right here at the top and another one just like it at the bottom. So the one at the bottom I'll be able to get to with my socket wrench, but the one at the top I can't get the socket on because of this thing that's in the way. So I'm going to use just a regular wrench. Alright, we'll start with this top bolt here. Try and break it loose. Might have to. Alright, let's try giving it a few taps with this hammer. Okay, there's that bolt off. So for the bottom bolt, we're going to use the socket and the breaker bar. And let's see if I can get this one loose by hand. I'm going to put this bolt back in because the whole caliper housing is moving now, and I don't necessarily want that. Now let's put on the actual socket wrench. That'll make things a lot easier. Alright, so there's the other bolt, the bottom bolt, and now this entire housing just slides right off. Okay, so there we go. Next we'll attempt to get the actual rotor off. The rotor is really held on with the lug nuts. I mean, that's the big thing, and but there's also this small little screw that holds it on too. So we just need to take that screw out, and it requires a T30. It's a Torx screw. So I actually have a T30 for a socket wrench, so we'll use that. So just put that in here, and my experience is these come off pretty easy, so hopefully, yep. Yeah, see that really just broke loose easy, and we'll take that off. This screw is stripped. Okay, let's try the old. Let's try the vice grips. Okay, so now that finally came off. Let's try. We have to get this rotor off, and it's probably rusted on a little bit. Hopefully, I'm just going to tap it with a hammer a little bit, and that might make it pop off. Yeah. So just a few taps with the hammer loosened it up, and it comes right off. So there we go. So this wheel is all apart. I think we're going to need to clean this up a little bit with a wire brush. And so now that the wheel's all apart, the next step is to clean everything up and put the new parts on. Let's start the cleaning by trying to get all the rust we can off of this surface here. So when the rotor touches it, it'll be a clean surface. So it'll be easier to get off next time. Not that it was hard to get off this time, but I think it's just better to have a clean surface. So I am wearing eye protection, and I do recommend that if you're going to be using some high-speed tool that is throwing debris up in the air. I'm going to clean off this this grease just to make it easier to clean this part. Now that the rust is mostly off, I mean it's not perfect, but I'm not sure a mechanic would do anything like this. It takes too much time. But I don't know. Hopefully it helps. I'm going to clean it off, clean the cylinder off now with some brake clean. And I think I have some anti-rust grease or anti-seize that I can put on here too. But so let's give it a good clean. And I have some rags on the floor just to soak up this brake clean. So this part's ready to go. Next we'll clean off the brake housing and the caliper itself. So let's clean up the caliper housing. These are the old brakes. We'll just kind of pop them out. So that's what it should do. It should just come straight out this way. So I don't know why this isn't coming off. It's normally these brakes the brake pads just slide out really easily. So there we go, that came off now. And one of the things to notice, here's the calipers, or sorry, the pins that were used to secure this to the vehicle. So it went on the wheel like this. You know, this is where the tire would be. So this, the pad that has this little extra tab on it that would rub against the rotor and tell you when your brakes are bad. This goes on the inside of the car. So it goes on the inside, and this is at the top. Okay, so there's the old brake pads are off. Now it has these there's these metal pieces that when you get new brake pads, usually you can get new ones, but I did not purchase those. They did not come with the brake pads I got. So I'm going to have to clean these up a little bit, and I'm going to just do a general cleaning on here. We're going to take these pins out. We're going to examine the booting. I don't see any holes. It looks good. It's moving fine. But one thing we can do is we can take this pin out, and we will apply a fresh coat of silicone to it, just so that it slides good. This one here is a little bit tight, so we will also clean that up. Okay, so we'll do that. Well, let's take these pins off first, and I'm going to set them aside. Okay. So just take a wire brush now, and I'm going to just clean off these parts where the brake pad is touching. I think this is the part that really matters, because this is where the brakes touch the housing. The next thing I want to do is I'm just going to spray this with brake cleaner I'm also going to give this a bit of a clean. Get these bolts to see if we can get the old Loctite off of here. Let's use the brush on this too. Use a little brake cleaner on this, and that's why I have it in the old cylinder box, just as a place to catch all this brake cleaner. Spray it off good. While that's drying a little bit, we'll clean these pins, get the old silicone off of it, and then we can take the we'll spray this with some new silicone. Okay, so now we'll spray some silicone lubricant on here. And on this other one. Okay, so now we'll put these back into this. Make sure this boot goes all the way up to the top so there's no air or dirt that can get in here. And this moves great. And put the other one in. Now the boot, make sure the boot goes over the top again. So, alright, so we're good. These move nice, they're freshly lubricated. So we're good to go. Now we can reassemble everything onto the wheel. Time to put everything back together. The first thing we're going to do is clean the coating off the rotors. They come from the factory with some coating that keeps them, I think, from rusting or something. But anyways, we're going to use brake clean and get that coating off. So first we're going to do the back side, and a trick someone told me once is to put this to put the rotor on backwards first, and I just put one lug nut on to keep it from moving, and then we can easily spray the back, and we'll just give it a really good dousing with this brake clean to get the coating off. So once that drips a bit, I'll flip it around and we'll do it again on the front. Alright, so I flipped the rotor around, so now it's on the way it's supposed to. I lined up the hole here with the screw hole that's on the inside. This is where I would normally put that T30 screw back on, but you know, I stripped it, or it was already stripped before, and I just ruined it getting it out, so I can't use that. I went to the hardware store, I went to 2 auto parts stores, nobody's got that screw. Somebody told me that the only purpose for this screw here is to hold the rotor on while the car is moving around the factory. It's not needed at all. I mean, these lug nuts hold this rotor on. The caliper is going to go over it. So what I've done, I'm not going to replace it. I'm just going to leave it off. But for now, I've put a couple lug nuts on to hold this in place while I assemble the rest of it. So let's give this side a good cleaning with the brake clean. Just like we did on the other side, we want to get the that coating that comes from the factory off. So you can be very liberal with this brake clean. Alright, good, that's clean. Next we'll put the brake pads back into the housing before we put it onto the vehicle. And I'm going to take some brake grease here, or lubricant, and lubricate these metal parts where the brakes are touching. So put some on both sides here. And you could also use this to lubricate the pin, but we use that silicone so that this stuff collects dust and the silicone does not. Okay, we'll start with this brake. It's important. We don't want to get any grease or anything or any dirt on the surface of the brake here at all. But so this one does not have that warning tab. This other one does. So remember, this one goes on the inside of the car. So we know that this brake pad is going to go on the outside. So we'll just slip it in here. Should be fairly easy, but okay. So that goes on there like that, and the curvature matches the curvature of the arm and of the, so this is, when this goes back on the car, it's going to go like this. It's going to be attached to the car, and then the rotor is here. All right, let's put this one on. So again, the curve is on the, matches the same side there. So that went in a lot easier than it came off. All right, let's put it on the car. Before we use these bolts again, we're going to put some thread locker, the blue thread locker, which is the medium strength. It helps keep these bolts in, but it also makes it a little easy to get these bolts out the next time. So I probably put too much on here, but anyways. So just a few drops is all you really need. And then we'll make sure it gets coated onto the threads. I'm going to put it on all the bolts. So I put it on the 2 bolts that are going to hold this housing on, and then the 2 that go in here to hold the to keep this moving as well. Sorry, I don't know the names of everything. Did I mention I'm not a mechanic? Okay, so now we take this caliper housing with the brake pads already in it and just put it on top here. And we have to line up the holes. I don't know if you can see. So there's a hole, or a bolt hole. Bolt goes up there and there's a bolt down there. So let's just try lining up this top bolt and see if we can get it to start threading a little bit. Okay, there, I got the top one in, and now we'll get the bottom one in. So it seems to be sticking a bit at the top. Okay. So now we'll just use the wrench and tighten those down the rest of the way. Again, these bolts are 13/16. Unfortunately, I don't know the torque spec for these. So I'm just going to make them as tight as I can by hand. Okay, those are both as tight as they can get. So the next step now is going to be to compress the cylinder here on the brake assembly so that we can fit it over these brakes, the brake pads here. So the way to do this is to take one of the old brake pads that you had and put it in here so it touches the cylinder itself, and then we're going to use the clamp and compress this so that this this rubber piece, this is pushed all the way into the cylinder. We need it to be compressed all the way so we can fit it over the new brake pads. And normally that's pretty simple. I'm not sure if we got all the way through like we need to. Now that we have the cylinder compressed, let's try to put this back onto the vehicle. So I'm going to put this into the bottom first. There's again the bolt down there and the bolt up there. So we'll try to be careful here. Okay, oh, that's awesome. It fits right over. Let's put it into this hole here. And I'm just going to start screwing this in. Yeah, perfect. Okay, wonderful. Sometimes the hardest part about doing this really is getting these brake pads on, and then and then getting this assembly to fit over the brake pads. Okay, there, now I've got the bolts started in the bottom here. So the bolt is started into the bottom one. And let's get the bolt in the top. Okay, so now we can tighten these bolts down. Again, this is a 14 millimeter. I wish I knew the torque spec, because ideally you would want these to be torqued, but I'll just tighten them as tight as I can get. This is perfect now. It's all set, all back on. One thing we need to do, you can see there's some wiggle in here. That's because there's space because we compressed that cylinder all the way. So what we need to do is, after we get the other wheel done, I'm going to just pump the brakes so that the brakes get squeezed and applied to pressure to this. So I'm just going to spray this down with brake cleaner one last time just to get any grease off of it. And so now we can take these lug nuts off. These were holding the actual cylinder. Whoops. I guess maybe that screw is important. Okay, so I guess that screw does have to be in here, so I just, I can put it on, and I'm not going to super tighten it. I just put it on enough that it's going to stay snug. I guess good luck to the next guy that has to get this off. So, did I mention I'm not a mechanic? If I could find that screw, I would replace it, but I can't. So I'm just going to have to put this back on in its mangled state. And it's going to keep this hub on. And then hopefully when we get the lug nuts and the wheel on here, that will also apply pressure to keep it on. But I don't know. Okay. All right, well, this one's done. I'm going to do the other side, and really the process is 100% the same. If I run into any big issues, I'll add it to the video. Otherwise, that's how you do the rotors and the brakes on a Chevy Cruz. Be careful of this screw, taking it out and putting it back in, and hopefully you can find a replacement if you need one. But that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I put the wheel back on and all the lugs on. It's still off the ground, so they're not torqued or anything, but I don't know if you can see this, where the wheel itself is right up against the rotor. So I think the wheel will hold the rotor on. It's not going to come off. Maybe that was right, that we don't need that screw, but just putting it on there helps, I guess. It just makes me feel better. This should be fine.